Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by, and welcome to the Go to the Source webinar. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode. If you would like to ask a question during the presentation, please use the chat feature located in the lower left corner of your screen. If you need to reach an operator at any time, please press *0. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded Tuesday, July 16th, 2013. I would now like to turn the webinar over to Sarah Walsh, Knowledge Officer. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Alan. Welcome everybody to our 7th and final Go to the Source webinar for 2013. As he mentioned, my name is Sarah Walsh and I'm with the Foundation for a Healthy Kentucky. And before I hand things over to Amy Swann, who's going to be our presenter today, I always like to steal a couple of minutes to tell you a little bit more about this training series. If you've participated in one of our Go to the Source webinars before today, well, it may seem a little bit familiar because I tend to recycle my slides, but bear with me, I will be brief, I promise. Go to the Source was really an effort to expand our training and capacity building efforts to specifically address the needs of data users. If you've ever talked to me for any length of time, you've probably witnessed one of my shameless plugs for Kentucky Health Facts, and I couldn't let this opportunity go either. Kentucky Health Facts is a website that the Foundation launched in 2008, and it's designed to provide anybody, both data pros and novice users, with an overview of the health needs and resources in their community. But we do recognize that if you're a researcher, a regional epidemiologist, a MAP coordinator, lead staff for your hospital's community benefit plan, frankly, if you're a data wonk of any kind, you may need to dig deeper into the information than what we provide on Kentucky Health Facts. Sometimes you've got to go back to the original sources of information to learn more about them. And that's what we're hoping to do with this series. It's intended to introduce you to some of the key health data tools and resources in Kentucky and help you get to know the people behind those tools. So before we begin today's discussion of the Kids Count Data Center, I really wanted to remind you about the other events in the series that we've already held. If you missed any of them, recordings from each of the previous webinars are available on our website, just as today's call will be archived there. The other data sources we profiled this year included Health Landscape, which is a free web-based mapping tool that you can use to visualize existing data sources or even upload your organization's own data and map that. The Kentucky Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System, which is really the premier source for population-level data on health status and health behaviors, things like tobacco use and exercise around the state. The Kentucky Medicaid Pharmaceutical Utilization Guide, that one's kind of a mouthful, but it's really an eye-opening look at prescribing practices and medication usage across the state. And when I say eye-opening, I mean eye-opening. Later in May, we hosted a webinar about the Kentucky Health Issues Poll, which is a poll that the Foundation sponsors in conjunction with the Health Foundation of Greater Cincinnati, and OASIS, which is an online statistical analysis tool that you can use to access the original data from the Kentucky Health Issues Poll and other publicly available data sets. So if you don't like if you're not satisfied with the reporting we've done on the data, you can actually go in and do your own research with that data. In June, we got an overview of the new developments and demographic resources available from the Kentucky State Data Center. Last week, I talked a little bit about our Kentucky Parent Survey, and now Amy's going to guide us into the home stretch with the last webinar in this series. Can't let anything go forward without my other shameless plug of please watch your email. We're going to send you an evaluation tomorrow. It is just a couple of questions, and I really hope that you'll take a moment to let us know what you thought of today's webinar and the Go to the Source series as a whole. Because this was our first time offering it, we really want to know if it was useful, if we should be repeating the series, if we should be expanding it to cover other different data sources. And really, you guys are the experts on what's needed, so please let us know what you thought. Okay, that's probably enough of my introductory spiel. I want to dive into today's webinar. We're very fortunate to have Amy Swann with us here today. She's a senior policy analyst and the Kids Count coordinator at Kentucky Youth Advocates. Kids Count is a national initiative of the Annie E. Casey Foundation, and KYA has served as their local partner really since the beginning of the project, and I know she's going to tell you just how exciting this resource is for our state. Amy in particular has been with Kentucky Youth Advocates since 2009. She's trained as a social worker, and she works on child welfare and juvenile justice issues within KYA's advocacy portfolio. And obviously of particular relevance to today's conversation, she's in charge of the Kids Count project for our state. And she's responsible for the production of the annual Kids Count County Data Book, which is an awesome resource, and the co-release of all the Kids Count national publications and their launch here in our state. As Alan mentioned at the very beginning of the call, you can chat in your questions. So as something occurs to you, if you have a question, please go ahead and enter that in the chat box. I will relay those to Amy, or we'll hold some of those for the end, and we'll have more time for questions at the end of the conversation. But that is my full spiel. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Amy to tell us a little bit more about Kids Count and what's new with the data center. It's all yours, Amy.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Sarah, for the introduction, and of course, thank you to the Foundation for a Healthy Kentucky for the opportunity to present on the Kids Count project and specifically the data center today. First, for those who are new to the Kids Count initiative, I want to provide just a very brief bit of history and description of the Kids Count initiative because even if you are familiar with the data center, you may not realize that the data center is really just one part of a much larger project. There are multiple foundations and other philanthropic bodies stemming from the Casey family who founded UPS, but it is the Annie E. Casey Foundation, as Sarah mentioned, that started the Kids Count project back in 1990. And they started that project with the desire to be able to measure and then track over time child outcomes across domains of well-being. Health is obviously one of those domains, but there are others, and you'll see that in a minute. And then really promoting that data to increase public awareness and public accountability by engaging in data-driven advocacy. And the thing that I love so much about Kids Count is anyone can access it. We try to make it as user-friendly as possible for anyone and everyone, and really it gives you tools that you can then use to engage in that data-driven advocacy to the local, state, and national decision makers advocating for improved child well-being, policies that promote improved child well-being. So 24 years ago, Casey published its first annual Kids Count data book containing indicators that had comparable data available for every state in the nation as a whole. That's really kind of that's been one of the key assets of the Kids Count project. It's not just compiling data here and there. It's finding data that allows us to compare geographies to each other because the data is comparable and it's consistent over time. So they put out their first annual data book 24 years ago, and they quickly realized that they needed that same kind of project in each state, where each state would be looking at sub-state level data. And so they decided to develop the Kids Count network across the nation. As Sarah mentioned, Kentucky Youth Advocates was one of the very first grantees brought into the Kids Count network. And so for 23 years now, we have led the Kids Count project in Kentucky. As she said, that includes our annual Kentucky Kids Count County Data Book, but that also means that we are responsible for posting all of the information that we collect within Kentucky for all of Kentucky's 120 counties and for all of our 174 public school districts. We're responsible for putting all that data that we've collected over time up onto this online Kids Count data center that I'm going to walk you all through today. So I'm showing on this slide the covers of the most recent national and Kentucky Kids Count data books. Again, as a reminder, that while the Kids Count initiative is largely about data, and for most people when they hear Kids Count, if they're at all familiar, they know it's a data project. But it's really more than just the data. It is also about research and about best practices relevant to those indicators. And I will show you in just a minute how you can get hard copies of any of these Kids Count publications from us. And I would be remiss as a data geek to not point out something that anyone who has been using the National Kids Count Data Book for multiple years now should definitely be aware of. And that is that beginning with the 2012 National Data Book, the Casey Foundation decided to revamp their Index of Child Well-Being that they use to rank states against each other. So in 2012, they stopped using the traditional 10 indicators of child well-being that they've been using for many, many years, and they developed this new index that has 16 indicators, and those are organized with 4 indicators each per these 4 domains of child well-being that you see. So this means that we can no longer compare the state rankings from the 2012 and the 2013 National Data Books with rankings from those older books, because the index used to calculate those rankings has changed. So we can compare the rankings in the 2013 book to 2012, but as of right now, that's it. So that's an important point because I know how much we like to be able to see trend analyses, and so unfortunately, starting in 2012, we are kind of starting back from scratch with that trend analysis of the state rankings of child well-being. I also just wanted to point out what you see on this slide, in addition to those 4 domains of child well-being that they have organized their index indicators into, you see this one-page handout. What this is, they have created this handout that takes all of the data about Kentucky from the 2013 National Data Book, and they've put it all onto this one page. So I understand that it's probably too small on this slide for you to view it well, but it includes everything from the most recent available count and percentage for each indicator portrayed, but also a baseline percentage, and it points out whether Kentucky improved, worsened, or remained the same for each of those indicators. So lots of information on this one page handout. Again, I'm going to show you where you can access your own copy of this on our website, and we'd be happy to send out hard copies as well.
Amy, am I interpreting correctly that the green bars are areas where we've improved so far?
Yes, I realize that everything is scrunched onto this tiny slide, but yes, the green bars are areas of improvement for Kentucky from the most recent available year of data, available for that indicator compared to the baseline year that they've chosen to use. And I should tell you that for the past few years, the Casey Foundation has chosen to use as close as possible to pre-recession years for that baseline, so that we can really be getting a sense of how far Kentucky has started to bounce back from that recession. So if you're able to blow it up, or if you later go look at it on our website, you'll notice that most of the baseline years they've used are anywhere from 2005 to 2008, and obviously that just depends on the data availability. Some of the data sets that they use don't come out every single year.
Sure.
Some of them only come out every other year or whatnot. So, but they try to get them as close together as possible. Okay, so I also wanted, for those who are at all familiar with Kentucky Youth Advocates, to make sure that you're aware that our website went through a major revamp towards the beginning of this year, and actually the Foundation for a Healthy Kentucky played a big role in that, and so we thank them for that as well. And I wanted to make sure that you all were familiar with how to access all of the different Kids Count publications and resources on our website. So I've got a big red arrow and big red circle around where you would click on our website, as that's kind of our portal to all of our Kids Count information. And right now I'm going to walk you through a couple of things there before we jump into the data center. So I am going to pull up the internet and walk you all through, oh my goodness. Okay, Sarah, can you see?
I can see your website, yep.
Wonderful. Okay, so when you click on that Kids Count icon, you see the Kids Count homepage on our website. That homepage talks about the Kentucky Kids Count project, and we will always have our most recent Kentucky Kids Count book highlighted there on that page. You can see that down towards the bottom. But now I'm gonna click through these other Kids Count pages we have off to the right, just really quick. So the one at the very bottom, book orders, this is where you go to put in a request for those copies of hard copy publications from the Casey Foundation or from us. The one above it, special reports. Sarah mentioned in her introduction that we co-release all of the reports that the Annie Casey Foundation puts out over the course of a year. Not only do they do that national Kids Count data book, they also periodically publish reports on very specific topics of child and family well-being. And so as we scroll down, you can see from youth being placed in incarceration to youth unemployment, the rise in the number of kinship care families, why reading by the end of third grade is so important to future academic success. Again, we always get a small number of copies of those from the Casey Foundation. Are happy to ship those out to folks. Then right above that, you see the page where we discuss the National Kids Count Project, and so we will always have the most recent national data book highlighted and featured on that page. And when we scroll down, you can see here's where, if you're interested in just having electronic files, you can get the full book. You can get that one-page state profile handout that I showed in my previous slide. You can also see if you want the press release that we put out. The one above it, Kids Count Conversations. This is an opportunity that we offer to anyone who's interested in having Kentucky Youth Advocates come talk to a group in their county about what the data specific to their county or their region shows. So we've talked to all sorts of groups. I've presented in bowling alleys before because that was the best meeting for that rural county in Kentucky. So I mean, we ask that there's enough of a group there, say at least 15 to 20 people, to hopefully make the drive worth it. But we're very happy to do those for counties. And you can see there, if you scroll down, you can see examples of those presentations that we've given to various counties across the state last year. This county data books page, this is where we're just always going to have posted our most recent annual Kentucky data books. So we've got the ones going back to 2007. We would, if you want to see the most recent data, you can go to our website. And then we also have our most recent national data book. So we've got the ones going back to 2007. We would, if you want to see the most recent national data, you can go to our website. frankly probably have a hard time digging up the ones going all the way back to 1991. And then, most importantly, here at the top, we've got the Kids Count Data Center. And so we've got a brief description of what the data center is and all of these fun tools that are available for people to use. And this is actually what we are going to jump in and spend the majority of our time talking about. And I need to go back. Here it is. Okay. So we should be back at the PowerPoint now. And I've got there, for those who are savvy and take advantage of the miracle that is the Internet and all of the tools it provides, these are specific web addresses for the new Kids Count Data Center that you might want to bookmark or save as a favorite website if you anticipate using the data center with any frequency. And so we're going to walk through both everything that is covered on that home page, but then I'm going to show you some tricks. If you know that you're specifically just going to be researching data on Kentucky, I'm going to show you some shortcuts to get directly to that. Back. Okay, so here we are at the home page for the Kids Count Data Center. They unveiled this revamped data center when they released their 2013 National Data Book. So I've had a little bit of time. I've had just a couple months to familiarize myself with this new data center, but I have discovered some things that I think you all will hopefully find useful in your navigation for your data collection needs. So we see that there's a variety of ways that we can get to the data that we're looking for. You can enter, like it says, a location, a topic, or a keyword here in the search box and hit search. I've got to tell you, I would actually not recommend using that because one thing I have discovered with that feature is that if you don't use the exact phrase that whoever posts the data that you're looking for uses, then it's not going to show up, and you're going to think, oh, well, I guess it's just not on there. So I'm trying to think of an example that led me to this discovery recently.
So we may search smoking and they've got tobacco or vice versa.
Yeah, or you put in food stamps and the person who posts the data that you're looking for calls it SNAP by its new name. So that's the main reason why I really don't recommend using that search box. Frankly, there are other much easier ways, I think, to find the data that you're looking for. So, down here you can click on the specific state, or you can click on the specific domain of child well-being that you're interested in and start navigating through those points. We're going to come back to this option right here under Quick Links that says Create Custom Profiles, because I think that's a really helpful tool, and I want to make sure that people know how to use that. Everything else down here at the bottom of this home page is PC Foundation highlighting some of their most recent work, showing some of their social media posts, telling you how to get connected into their social media network if you wish. So we are going to scroll back up here, and before we jump in to all of the data that we at Kentucky Youth Advocates post on this Kids Count Data Center for Kentucky's counties and public school districts, I do want to first just show you the magnitude of data available for Kentucky at the state level in which you can compare Kentucky to the other states, i.e., the magnitude of data that the Casey Foundation posts as part of their National Kids Count project. So we're going to click on this button that says View U.S. Data. And they've created a little legend up here at the top where it says at the very top, data provided by. Underneath, the blue triangle is always going to mean that Casey Foundation, the National Kids Count project, posted that data. They're the ones that collected, cleaned, analyzed that data. So here we'll see there's a variety. I mean, it's just a very long list from demographics, economic well-being, all sorts of subcategories within those as well, education. We've got family and community indicators. We've got health, which I'm assuming a lot of people on this call would be very interested in browsing. So birth outcomes, health insurance coverage access, vital statistics, dental health, mental health, those indicators that they were able to get data by race and ethnicity on, a variety of other things as well that didn't fit neatly into one of those subcategories, and then safety and risky behaviors. So you can see there are hundreds of indicators if for whatever reason you are interested in comparing Kentucky to either the nation as a whole or to other states in the nation. Okay, but I imagine that lots of folks on the call are interested in that Kentucky-specific data that goes to the school district. I'm sorry, what?
You know as well. That's the stuff we're looking for.
So we're back at the landing page. We're going to click on Kentucky. And this is the page that pops up if you use that Kentucky landing page address that I had on the last PowerPoint slide. So here we go. So we see, again, under data provided by, that we've got stuff from the Casey Foundation, because there's all of these, but also from Kentucky Youth Advocates in the form of the red circles. In order to get rid of all of the data from the Casey Foundation, because there's not going to be any county or any school district level data there, then over here in this left-hand sidebar toolbox, we're going to click on By County within this Locations toolbox. So now we see, we scroll down, everything is clearly from Kentucky Youth Advocates. So all of this data you see here is county level data. I tell people, please don't forget that we do also collect a variety of indicators at the school district level. So again, in this locations sidebar toolbox, to get that data, we have to click on by school district. You can see we've got a variety of things here. Some things that folks in the health arena might be interested in, students with disabilities. So that first indicator is students that have individual education plans, and the second one is 504 plans. It's a different type of educational plan for students with disabilities. Most of the stuff is clearly, academic related, although we have a lot of school discipline related, and we do have the percent of students that are eligible for free or reduced price meals by school district. That's an indicator we also have by county, but because that is a program, that students receive at school, we thought people would probably want to know what those numbers look like at the school district level. Okay, so let's go back to county where we have a lot of health indicators. Scroll down to the health section. Okay, so here we are. We've got a variety of birth outcomes from Vital Stats Office of Kentucky. We've got health insurance information we get from the Medicaid office, a whole variety of things, including asthma hospitalizations for children and whatnot. So I'm going to click on a specific indicator so that I can talk you through the tools that are available once you're on an indicator page and what all it's going to allow us to do with this data. Okay, I'm clicking on rate of asthma hospitalizations. The way that they've set up the new data center, it defaults to automatically providing you the 5 most recent years of data available, if we have at least 5 years of data available for that indicator. And it automatically defaults to showing us what the data is for every single county in Kentucky. The one thing that I'm not too jazzed about is that, unfortunately, if you want to be able to compare all of the counties to Kentucky, you have to make sure to go down here in between the locations and the years toolboxes on the left-hand side and click this Compare to Kentucky. Okay, so now we can easily see that, for example, in the most recent data available, 2009 to 2011, Adair County has a very similar rate to the state as a whole, whereas, Allen County has a much lower rate than the state as a whole. If you are specifically interested in just knowing the data for 1 or 2 or 3 counties, maybe your county or your county and the counties that border your county, then I would recommend coming over here again to the Locations toolbox, click this Uncheck All, and then just scroll through and check the few that you're interested in. For the purposes of just kind of walking through the tools, I'm just going to click the first county here, Adair. And then we're going to go up here, and so we see that right now we're on this table tool, so it's showing us in table format. If we wanted to, we'd come down here in the years toolbox. We could add more. Oh, only 5 years can be selected concurrently, so we have to take off something. So if we wanted to get an understanding of a broader trend, then here, we can kind of do every other year and the most recent year. Go back further and see visually how things have changed for Kentucky and Adair over a longer period of time.
It's great how much history you all have for these indicators.
Well, I guess that's the benefit of doing this project for 20-plus years. Is that we've been able to track some indicators for a very long period of time. Of course, there are some indicators that we haven't been able to get a lot of historical data on, either because the cost that would be incurred by the state agency to do that kind of data run for us, or sometimes we don't have a lot of historical data for a particular indicator because that data, that indicator has changed at some point over time, and so it's no longer comparable. So, we're very careful to try and point out to folks if an indicator has changed, if the methodology for collecting that or the question used when collecting that data has significantly changed, well, it's no longer comparable. You have to basically start a new indicator. And then, of course, we try to add at least a couple brand new indicators to our milieu every year. So for those, when we make an initial data request for a brand new indicator to a data partner, we ask for at least 3 years worth of data right at the offset, so we know that we'll have at least 3 years worth on the data center. Sometimes that's not possible. So sometimes it just plain takes a while to build up, that cache of years of data for each indicator. So that's kind of the table function, which is, what you would expect to see on a data center. So really, in terms of tools, we've got these other options up here at the top. So I'm going to click on Map, and I'll be interested to see if it makes me, I think it is going to make me, okay, that would make sense. Yeah, it's not going to show me a map because it's not going to map just Adair. It wants to map more than just a single county. So let's click on Oh, actually, maybe it'll do this. Okay. Okay, so it's showing us the county level data mapped for Kentucky. It automatically maps the most recent year of data available. Again, we can choose what year is mapped using this year's sidebar over here. We've asked them to make a change on the back end so that this size map is the default that shows up. That hasn't happened yet. They've probably got a lot of requests from everybody in the Kids Count network for little things like that. And so the nice thing is that this is it's an interactive map in the sense that when you hover over a county, it's going to show you what the specific rate for that county was. We have a legend down here. I wish the default for the legend was up here so it didn't overlap with our map at all. So you can easily
look at how you moved it. That's very fancy.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a new feature. So one thing to know about the mapping function of the data center is that the Casey Foundation told the developers to use natural breaks. So we do not have any control. You will not be able to control what your quartiles are in terms of your data ranges in your legend. They have a system that looks at what your range is, and it automatically creates this legend for you. And so you can see that there also will be a white box that says no data whenever we don't have data. The only reason why we would not have data is in an instance like this, where we're looking at a rate. And we follow the guideline that many others do, that we do not publish rates if there were fewer than 6 incidences for that geography for that time frame that we're covering. So the data is actually that it's a low number of it.
Okay.
And then this little picture of Kentucky in the legend is telling you what the rate for the state as a whole was. So that's what that little number 22 means. Okay, so that's basically the map function. I guess while we're on the map function, I'll go ahead and talk about this toolbar up here, this kind of secondary toolbar. Embed. If anyone was using the old data center and took advantage of this feature on the old data center, I must let you know that when this new data center went live a couple months ago, those embedded images that you had on your website or your blog, they disappeared. in case you didn't notice. We've been told that, unfortunately, because of the revamp, people will have to go in here and embed those.
Oh, Amy, we lost your sound.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So if we click on Embed, it walks you through it, and it gives you the code that you need to embed that. The really awesome thing about this tool is that whenever KYA goes in and posts updated data for this specific indicator, your map on your website is automatically going to update to the newest data. So if you're an organization, and let's just say, because it's the indicator we're using as a demonstration right now, that you work on air pollution advocacy, or, child asthma, you advocate for changes around child asthma. And so you're really intrigued by this data, this map, and you put it somewhere on your organization's website using that embed tool that I just showed you. You don't have to worry about coming back to the data center on any kind of a routine basis to see if we've happened to put up the new data yet. It'll automatically update that graphic on your website whenever we make an update, so that you'll always have the most up-to-date information there on your website. So that's really neat. This Save Image tool, I use this function a lot. So when I go and I do those Kids Count conversations for specific counties or regions across the state, I obviously want to, show them lots of maps to show them how their county's comparing to their border counties and whatnot. And so I create lots of maps on the data center. I click on that Save Image. Oh, it's not going to let me move this. And then, like it said on the page here, you just right-click on the image. You tell it to save it as. You give it a name. You throw it in your, My Documents Pictures folder on your computer or wherever else. And then it's so easy to just insert that picture into your PowerPoint or your handout. And when you insert it, you can also then use that crop tool in PowerPoint if you want to get rid of this stuff right here and maybe move the title up to, say the header of your PowerPoint slide. So I find that very helpful for presentations and handouts.
I'm super jealous of that. I want my website to do that.
Next, we see this raw data tool, and that's what it sounds like. So if you're wanting to just download the data that you've gotten portrayed in spreadsheet format, you click that. I don't know if you can see, but because of the browser I'm using, I got a little pop-up box here at the bottom that just is verifying, do I want to open and save this? So I'm going to click open, and actually
this window's not shared because you're just sharing your...
That's right. Okay. But in a sense, you do that, and it opens up in Excel, the spreadsheet of that data for you. These two, indicator context and definition, we should have something listed for every single indicator. Indicator context, I think we've just tried to tell you a hyperlink for where you can go for additional information that Kentucky Advocates has published on this indicator. So in the instance of health data, it's our 2011 Kids Count Data Book that highlighted and had research and best practices outlined for health indicators. Definition and sources, here's where we're going to tell you, and these two tools, indicator context and definitions and sources, you should have access to this no matter which way you're looking at an indicator on the data center. So back when we were on the table view, if we had clicked on those or scrolled down to the bottom, we would have seen those there as well. So we're going to tell you exactly where we get the data from. Kentucky Youth Advocates does not engage in primary data collection. We don't do any, surveying, for example, ourselves. We're asking for data that other folks across the state are already gathering. A lot of that is state agencies who, are legislatively mandated to gather certain types of data. And then we're looking to see, what is it in those data sets that's interesting that we think people would want to know, and creating indicators out of that and updating those on an annual basis. And if there are any kind of caveats about the data, we will certainly provide that information down here. And so here you see under the footnotes, we want to make sure you know that the rates that we calculated were 3-year averages. Sometimes we do that when the numbers for an indicator are very small per calendar year. So we need to aggregate a couple years together in order to build them up to a big enough number that you can calculate rates for. And then again, we're explaining what that LNE designation means that we saw when we hovered over the white-colored counties in the map. So that's the map feature. Line graph feature, they had this one as well on the old data center. Again, you've got all the same options up here in this toolbox. One thing that I've noticed about the new data center, they have the default set to automatically show you data for the first, I believe it's 7 counties that are, in your alphabetical list of counties, and the first 10 years worth of data, if you have that many. What are the chances that you happen to want to graph the first 7 alphabetical counties in Kentucky? That's just the default. So, again, click uncheck all. Let's just click a couple ones here, and it will allow you to graph up to 7 locations at a time. And again, we can change the number of years here. The nice thing is, again, it's interactive in the sense that you hover over the data point, and it tells you what the data point was for that geographic area for that time frame. Down here, because it's a graph, we have the additional function of being able to choose whether it's in ascending or descending order, in case you want that option sometimes. And then the bar graph. This is the brand new tool to the data center that was not on the old version. And hopefully it'll come up here. Okay, here we go. For the bar graph, they have allowed us to only choose up to 5 locations to graph at a time, and obviously 1 time frame. So here it automatically chooses the most recent data available, and again, it just happens to choose the first 5 counties alphabetically in your list of counties. And I was going to say that we've noticed that sometimes, actually, I think they made a change. Okay, well that's good. We had notified them when they first launched it that the numbers were showing up kind of funny, but it looks like they've made a change. So never mind. I was going to tell you a tip for how to get rid of that, but they fixed that problem since the launch. So that's
found their own tip, yeah.
Yay. Okay, so those are all the main tools. I want to go back now and quickly talk about that custom profile option, because we've gotten calls over the years from folks saying it could be a student, sometimes it's a teacher who's wanting to use this for a student project for their classroom. Sometimes it's grant writers, who are saying, I kind of want to know all the data that you have on my county. So obviously, it would be time-consuming to click through every single one of those, 100-plus indicators that we have listed that I showed you earlier. But if you go down here towards the bottom of the home page under Quick Links and click this Create Custom Profiles, so what we're going to do is first we're going to select Kentucky. Then we're going to select a county in Kentucky. So again, we'll just pick the first one, Adair. We're going to click Next. You would want, if you really want to see everything that we have posted for Adair County, you would just click this one. If you're only interested in what we have on health, then you would go down here and you would click on these. Okay, but I'm going to click everything for Adair and click Create Report. And hopefully it's going to cooperate. while we're waiting to see if this is going to cooperate or if I've overloaded my computer. Aha, great. Okay, so here we go. Again, it automatically is going to give you the first 5, the most recent 5 years of data available if we have it. You can see that underneath each table you have these options down here to modify it. So if you just want the most recent year, click that. If you want to download a spreadsheet for all available years, click that. So again, you can tweak this. But this is everything, so I won't make you dizzy by scrolling all the way down. But that's everything on Adair County. Now, again, I do stress to folks to please don't forget that we do have indicators that you have to click on here by school district in order to see those. So here we would go for the Adair County School District. And also don't forget that there are a number of counties in Kentucky that have more than one public school district. So here,
Amy, I'm sorry to interrupt. Your sound is coming in and out on us a little bit again. Is it possible for you to either move closer or?
Here, I'm going to pick up the handset because I haven't moved away, so there must just be a I don't know, problem with the phone.
Thank you. That sounds much clearer.
So here I've clicked on the Adair County public school system, and obviously all of them are education related. So it doesn't really matter whether you click up here or whether you navigate down here. So just a reminder that if you truly want all of the data on your area, make sure to do a custom profile both for your county and for your school district or school districts located in your county. And with that, I am going to go back to the PowerPoint. So that I know that's like a whirlwind tour of this new data center, and want to leave a few minutes here for any questions.
Well, I'll give folks a couple minutes to type in their questions while I just sort of field some of mine. That was awesome. I know we'll all want to get in and kind of play around and click on things to see how it all works, but I wasn't even aware of the custom profile option, so that's a really neat tool for communities to be able to generate their own information that way.
Yeah, it's kind of a hidden tool down there towards the bottom of the homepage.
It's a super powerful one. It's like, ta-da, my report's all done. Oh, maybe not.
Does anyone have a question?
While they're still typing in, you did mention earlier that, the 16 new indicators that are part of the overall child well-being calculation and rank, that used to be 10 indicators, I think?
Yeah, so for many, many years, the Casey Foundation consistently used the same 10 indicators to develop their state rankings. And if you look back and look at the historical data which they have available on the website, you'd see that Kentucky was consistently ranking in the bottom 10 and then bottom 15 of states on overall child well-being. And then, for whatever reason, deciding to kind of, just periodically reevaluate and freshen things up, they decided to take a hard look at whether they should modify that index. And what they realized is that the 10 indicators that they were using, it was pretty heavy on like birth related data.
Sure.
So it wasn't necessarily as balanced in terms of capturing key indicators across the childhood spectrum. And it was pretty heavy on health-related indicators, so it also wasn't as balanced as it could be giving kind of equal weight to health, education, economic security, and safety issues. So, so that led to it was a more than year-long process of research and data analysis and whatnot that led to that revamped index of 16 indicators. So there are those 4 domains. I can actually click back on that slide. So there are these 4 domains, and each one, as you can see, has 4 indicators in the domain to make up that 16.
Yeah, I really like that structure. Are the old indicators, the things that used to go into the rankings, is the data still available, just not the
Yes, and in fact they didn't get rid of all of those 10 indicators. Some of those 10 made the cut to be in the 16. But because there were, other indicators that weren't part of that 10 that are now part of this 16, that's why those state rankings are not comparable. So if you're looking at a specific indicator that is in the 16 count index that happened to have also been in that old 10 count index, then you can still compare Kentucky's ranking on that specific indicator. So one thing that's not apparent on this one-page handout, this data snapshot that I've talked about, you can maybe make out within these 4 domain boxes, there's a little circle with a number there. That's saying that Kentucky ranked 32nd on overall economic well-being using the data from those 4 indicators to develop that. Or we ranked 28th on education, 31 on health, I think it says 38, memory serves me right, on family and community. They also rank us for each specific indicator. That's just not showing up on here, but it is in the full data book.
Oh, very
cool. For
they can only get so much on the sheet of paper.
Yeah, so I want to say that like low birth weight babies is one that was part of their historic 10 count index. So whatever our whatever Kentucky's rank specifically for low birth weight babies was in the 2013 book, you could certainly compare that over the many years that they've been doing kids count. It's just that because there are a couple new things added in, like this teen substance abuse indicator, since there were some new things added in to this health section, we can't compare the overall health ranking to those of pre-2012.
That makes sense. We had another question about the school district level data that you were showing up on the website. Is that data for kind of the full population living in that school district, or just the school-aged public school students?
It's for the students in that district.
Okay.
That attend that district. Yeah, so I don't know that we have any data, to be honest, on students that live in a county that attend private schools, just because they're not obligated to do the same kind of data collection and public sharing of data as public school districts are.
I think that's a challenge everywhere. I'm going to talk slowly because I'm not seeing any more questions at the moment, but I wanted to give, if anybody is furiously typing, I wanted to give them the moment. But good, Amy's pulled up her contact information. If you have questions later, you can email her. And okay, I think we've exhausted our questions and we're about out of time. So on behalf of everyone whose phones are muted, I just wanted to say, Amy, thank you so much for this overview and showing us around what Kids Count has to offer.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to everybody that called in to find out more. And we really exist and strive to be a resource for our fellow child advocates out there in the state. So any questions about data availability, how to access, how to make sense of, stuff through the Kids Count project, more than happy to answer those questions at any time.
Great. And Alan, I think we are all set, so we will sign off here and thank everyone very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude the webinar for today. We thank you for your participation and ask that you please disconnect your lines. Have a great day, everyone.